Deep beneath the streets of New York City, where sunlight never penetrates, rises the Hive, a nightmarish structure of flesh and symbiotes. Dark Carnage, now a true god of horror, sits upon his throne, surrounded by an army of mindless followers. Amidst this madness, the voice of Norman Osborn rings out, seemingly relishing the chaos. But Carnage is not in the mood for talk. He is obsessed with one goal: to sink his claws into the throat of the entire planet. Irritated by Norman's babble, he rudely commands him to shut up, making it clear who is the real master here. The conflict within the symbiotic union is escalating. Carnage reminds Osborn that he is just a puppet, little Norman, allowed to play dress-up only for the symbiote's amusement. In a fit of rage, he literally rips a piece of Osborn's face off, declaring that there is only one Carnage in this house, and only Carnage makes the rules here. While the villains divide power, it becomes clear, to collect the Codex, one of them will have to die. But Carnage only laughs in response to the threats. His bloody harvest has already begun. Carnage's deadly tendrils, like the roots of a poisonous plant, have already grown through the city's veins. In this chaos, no one is safe, not civilians nor heroes. Deadpool, Miles Morales, and dozens of others are trapped. Carnage catches their every breath, savoring their fear. His teeth sink into the very flesh of this planetary hellhole, and he will not stop until he crushes it in a deadly embrace. On the rain-soaked streets of New York, a desperate battle unfolds. Miles Morales, the young Spider-Man, is trying his best to hold back the onslaught of the symbiote horde. Scorpion, Matt Gargan, fights alongside him, but his patience is at its limit. Despite Gargan's skepticism, Miles doesn't give up. He unleashes his Venom Blast energy, declaring to the entire city, "I am Spider-Man." But will the strength of one teenager be enough to stop the impending apocalypse? The battle grows increasingly brutal. Miles fights at the limit of his abilities, cutting through the ranks of monsters. But when he needs help, Scorpion reveals his true nature. "Sorry, kid. I used to be Venom and all that, but I'm not Spider-Man," Gargan throws out and disgracefully runs from the battlefield, leaving Miles alone against an entire army. The young hero is left alone among enemies, exhausted from wounds, while the traitor lurks in the dark, rainy shadows. At the most critical moment, Eddie Brock appears, realizing that Miles is the only one still fighting. Eddie catches up with the fleeing Scorpion and forces him back into the fight. "We'll talk after I save the boy," Eddie snarls. Scorpion, seeing Venom's determination, realizes that fleeing will not save him from Carnage's wrath. Together, they rush back into the fray, where Miles has already almost lost hope. But Carnage was waiting for exactly this. He mocks the heroes, calling it his birthday. For him, 2 Venoms for the price of 1 is the best gift. While Eddie tries to break through to Miles, Carnage's tendrils bind Scorpion. The situation becomes catastrophic. Carnage is aimed at his next victim, and his laughter drowns out the sound of the rain and screams of pain. The bloody clash reaches its climax. Miles, seeing Carnage torturing Scorpion, throws himself into a final attack, but the power of Dark Carnage is undeniable. He plunges his claws into Gargan's spine, intending to rip out the Codex by force. A horrifying scream rings out, seeming to tear the sky itself. Miles desperately tries to deliver a decisive blow, but Carnage only enjoys his futile attempts. Miles Morales' energy burst illuminates the street, but it only throws the monster back for a moment. Eddie Brock watches the consequences of the attack in horror. Scorpion is defeated. He can't feel his legs and prays for salvation. But Carnage has already achieved his goal. Brock tries to pull Gargan out of this nightmare, feverishly looking around for Miles. However, the young Spider-Man has vanished into the bloody mist. Miles Morales, covered in symbiotic mass, extends his hand to Eddie, begging for help. But Carnage has already seized his mind. Miles's cracking voice breaks off and is replaced by the monster's chilling laughter. Carnage triumphs. He has not just won, he has taken possession of one of Brock's strongest allies. "We're just getting started." The monster's voice sounds through Miles's lips, and the world will never be the same again.